The stars had always been there watching. For most of human history, they were just lights in the sky. But in the year 2147, that changed forever. A small ship came from deep space. It was not made by humans. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a teardrop, and moved without sound. It entered Earth's orbit quietly, unnoticed by most people below. On board were three beings from a faraway world called Varelia. They were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like wet glass. Their eyes were large and black, and they did not blink often. They called themselves the emissaries of the Varelian Concord, a peaceful group of alien species that had agreed to help each other survive in the galaxy. Their mission was simple: make contact with this new species called humans. The humans had sent radio signals into space, built satellites, and even launched a few ships beyond Mars. They were curious and loud, and the Varelians wanted to know more. Lauren Tavash was the leader of the team. He had studied human language for years. He could speak English, though his voice sounded like wind through leaves. Next to him stood Syra, the navigator, and Talek, the scientist. They all felt nervous but hopeful. They picked a place to land, a dry stretch of desert in Nevada, far from cities and people. They chose it because it looked safe on their scans. They powered down their ship and opened the hatch. The sun was setting when they stepped out. The air was hot and still. They waited and waited. After 2 hours, Lauren tapped a small device on his wrist. "We should send a message," he said. Syra nodded. She activated a signal that would be picked up by human technology. It said, "Peaceful visitors, we come in friendship." Back on Earth, the signal was received by several governments at once. Within minutes, the news spread. Something had landed in Nevada, something not human. What happened next was messy. The first people to arrive were reporters. They drove fast cars across the desert carrying cameras and microphones. They didn't care if it was dangerous. They only cared about being the first to see it. Then came the local police, followed by the National Guard. Soon after, military helicopters flew overhead. Fighter jets circled the area like birds waiting to attack. Inside the ship, the Varelians watched everything unfold. They tried to stay calm. "Should we go back inside?" Talek asked. "No," Lauren said. "We must show them we are not afraid." But fear was exactly what was spreading among the humans. At the Pentagon, generals argued over what to do. Some believed the aliens were peaceful. Others thought they might be spies or invaders. "We don't know who they are," General Harlan said. "They could be testing us. Or they could be lost," said Colonel Davis. "Maybe they just want to talk." "You think they just want to talk?" Harlan snapped. "This is Earth. If someone lands here uninvited, it's not a picnic." Meanwhile, in Washington, the president held an emergency meeting with her advisors. "Do we make contact?" one asked. "If we wait too long, it looks like we're scared," another said. "If we act too fast, we look desperate," the president replied. She finally decided, let the United Nations handle it. They had experience with strange things happening around the world. The UN sent a team of diplomats and scientists. They arrived in Nevada late at night, escorted by soldiers with guns. They approached the alien ship slowly. The door was still open. Lauren stepped out again. He raised his hands in what he hoped was a friendly gesture. One of the diplomats, a man named James Elliott, walked forward. He wore a suit and tie which looked silly in the desert dust. He smiled nervously and spoke. "Hello, we are representatives of planet Earth. Welcome." Lauren tilted his head. Then he responded in slow, careful English. "Thank you, we are emissaries of peace." There was silence. Everyone stared. Then, someone in the crowd shouted, "They're green." Talek blinked. "I am not green," he said quietly. Syra elbowed him. "Do not correct them." More talking happened. Questions were asked, answers were given. None of it made much sense to either side, but no one was hurt. That was good. The next day, the aliens were invited to a nearby base for talks. They agreed. Lauren, Syra, and Talek were taken in a helicopter to a military compound. There, they met more humans, Scientists, linguists, and politicians. They showed the aliens food, music, and art. The aliens gave gifts in return, glowing, stones, soft fabrics that changed color, and a small device that played calming sounds. Everyone seemed happy. The world watched online. People posted memes. Some laughed. Some prayed. Others worried. But behind the scenes, things were not so simple. In a dark room somewhere else in the country, a group of men sat around a table. They were part of a secret unit known as Black Ridge Dynamics. They were not government workers. They worked for private companies. "This is bad," one said. "They're treating them like guests," another added. "They're not guests," the leader said. "They're threats. We don't know what they're really doing here. So what do? We take control." That same night, Lauren couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. Something felt wrong. Outside, a storm rolled in. Lightning lit up the sky. Suddenly, the lights went out. Then came the sound of boots running. Alarms blared. Voices shouted. Smoke filled the halls. Lauren jumped up. He found Syra and Talik already awake. "What is happening?" Syra asked. "Not sure," Talik said. "But I don't like it." They heard a loud bang. The door was kicked open. Soldiers, wearing black armor, stormed in. They pointed weapons at the aliens. "Don't move," one said. Lauren tried to speak but was cut off. "You're coming with us." They were dragged out of the building, thrown into a van, and driven away. No one saw them leave. No one reported it. By morning, the talks were canceled. The aliens were gone. The UN said they returned to their ship and left Earth. The truth was very different. Lauren, Syra, and Talik were taken to a hidden facility deep in the mountains. It was cold and dark. The walls were metal. There were no windows. They were separated. Lauren was placed in a small room with bright lights and cameras. He was questioned every day. "Who sent you? What do you want here? Are you working with anyone on Earth?" He answered as best he could, but no one believed him. Syra was kept in silence. She saw no one for days. Sometimes she heard screams from other rooms. Talik was worse off. He was taken to a lab. Doctors in masks poked and prodded him. They took blood. They injected chemicals. They wanted to know how he healed so fast. None of them knew where the others were. None of them knew if they would survive. Back in space, the Varelian ship waited. It had not left Earth. It was still orbiting, sending silent messages to its homeworld. No one answered. Eventually, the ship turned and left, heading back to Varelia. Its final transmission read, "Contact unsuccessful. Humanity is unpredictable. Recommend caution." Weeks passed. On Earth, life went on. People talked about the aliens for a while, then forgot. The world had problems of its own. Climate change, wars, politics. No one noticed the small spaceship that vanished. No one noticed the silence from the stars. But somewhere far away on a planet covered in forests and oceans, a message was received. The Varelian Council gathered. Lauren's file was marked missing. His last words were stored in the archive. "They are different." Weeks passed since the aliens had vanished. On Earth, people moved on. The world was busy with its own problems: fires, floods, elections, and new phone models. No one gave much thought to what happened to the visitors from space. But far away, on a planet called Varelia, things were not so quiet. The Varelian Council sat in their great hall, surrounded by glowing screens and soft lights. They were tall, thin beings with skin that shimmered like wet glass. They did not blink often, and they did not sleep like humans did. Instead, they rested in silence for hours at a time, thinking. Lauren Tavash was gone. No trace of him, Syra, or Talik had been found. The ship had returned without them. Sena Oris, a young diplomat, stood before the council. She wore a dark robe and held a small device in her hand. "We must act," she said. "We cannot ignore what has happened." An elder named Veclin spoke next. His voice was calm but firm. "We do not know if they are dead or alive. We have no proof that the humans harmed them. Sena looked down at her device. It showed images, blurry, taken from hidden cameras. They were not clear, but they told a story. I have seen what they do, she said, and I fear what will happen if we wait. Back on Earth, life went on as usual. In Nevada, the military base where the aliens had been held was cleaned up. New paint covered old walls. New guards replaced the old ones. No one talked about what had happened there. But something else was happening out in space. A second alien ship entered Earth's orbit. This one was bigger than the first. It was shaped like a spinning top and made of smooth metal that changed color in the sunlight. It hovered silently, waiting. On board were 5 Varelians. They were not diplomats like Lauren. They were investigators. Their mission was simple: find the missing emissaries and report back. Their leader was Kayla Rinn, a skilled pilot and tracker. She had flown across half the galaxy hunting rogue ships and lost colonies. She was brave but cautious. We will make contact, she said to her crew. But we will be ready. They sent a message to Earth. It was peaceful. It asked only for answers. No reply came. After 3 days, they decided to land. They chose a place near the ocean. It looked safe. Trees, water, and open sky. They touched down gently. Then they waited and waited. Meanwhile, on the east coast of the United States, a storm rolled in. Lightning lit up the night sky. Rain fell hard on the U.S. rooftops of a small town in Florida. Inside a cozy house by the beach, Maggie Langston stirred awake. She was in her 40s with tired eyes and kind hands. Her husband, Rick, was already up making coffee. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Rick frowned. "Hear what?" There was a crash outside. Like thunder, but closer. They opened the back door and looked into the yard. Half buried in the sand was a strange pod. It was silver and cracked open like an egg. Smoke rose from its sides. Maggie walked forward slowly. "Hello?" Nothing answered. Rick grabbed a flashlight and shone it inside. There, curled up and barely breathing, was a being unlike anything they had ever seen. Its skin shimmered. Its eyes were large and black. It was hurt. Maggie turned to Rick. "We need to help it." They brought the creature inside. They laid it on the couch and covered it with blankets. Maggie gave it water. Rick called the local hospital. "This is not normal," he said. The doctors didn't believe him. They thought it was a prank, a costume, maybe a movie set. But Maggie knew better. She had seen pain before. She had watched her mother die of cancer. She had held her nephew when he broke his arm. This thing, whatever it was real. She stayed by its side all night. By morning, the creature's breathing had steadied. Its skin glowed softly. It opened its eyes. "Where am I?" it whispered. Maggie smiled. "You're safe now." Elsewhere, in a dark building filled with computers and maps, a man in a suit watched a screen. Beside him stood 2 others also in suits. "We've got movement," one said. "New ship landed," another added. "Not far from Florida." The man in the middle leaned forward. His name was Garrett Hale. He worked for a company called Black Ridge Dynamics. He was not part of the government, but he had access to many things the government did. "Find it," he said, "before anyone else does." Back in Florida, Kayla Rinn woke fully. She sat up slowly, blinking against the light. Maggie was still there, watching. "Thank you," Kayla said in broken English. "You helped me." Maggie nodded. "What happened to your ship?" Kalia tried to remember. "We landed. We waited. Then everything went dark. Was there an accident?" "Maybe," Kayla said. "Or maybe someone attacked us." Maggie looked worried. "Do you think someone shot you down?" Kalia did not answer. She wasn't sure, but she felt deep in her bones that something was wrong. Later that day, Rick came home with news. "There's a story online," he said. "Says a meteor hit the ocean last night. Some people saw it. Kalia looked at Maggie. That was my ship, Rick frowned. So you're saying someone crashed into the sea? Yes, Kayla said. And I was the only one who survived. Maggie took her hand. You're not alone anymore. But even as she said it, she felt uneasy. Someone would come looking for Kayla soon. Someone who wouldn't want to help. At Black Ridge headquarters, Garrett Hale received a report. Found her, a voice said over the comms. He smiled. Good, send a team. That night, Kayla stood on the porch staring at the stars. My people are waiting, she said. They will be looking for me. Maggie joined her. Can you call them? Kalea shook her head. My communicator was destroyed in the crash. Then, what do we do? Kalea looked at Maggie. We hide, until we can find the truth. Maggie nodded. Just then, headlights appeared down the road. 2 black vans pulled up. Men stepped out. They wore plain clothes, but carried weapons. Maggie gasped. Kalea. Backed away. Who are they? She whispered. Rick stepped forward. Leave us alone. One of the men ignored him. He walked straight toward Kyla. Come with us, he said. Kalea shook her head. No. The man reached for her. She jumped back. Then everything happened fast. Maggie screamed. Rick lunged. The men pushed them aside. Kalea ran. She was fast. Faster than any human. She leapt over fences, ducked through trees, and disappeared into the woods. But they followed. Back in the sky, the Varelian ship still waited. Its sensors picked up signs of life below. A faint signal. Sena Oris stared at the screen. There is still hope, she said. Then we must move quickly, Veclin replied. Before the humans take her too. The forest was dark and thick. Trees reached high into the sky, their branches blocking out the stars. Wind whispered through the leaves like a secret no one wanted to hear. Kayla Wren ran. Her feet barely touched the ground. She moved fast, faster than any human could. Her body was built for speed, for survival. But behind her, the men in black kept coming. They had guns. They had training. And they had orders. Don't let her get away, one shouted into his radio. Another fired a shot. The bullet hit a tree beside her and shattered the bark. Kayla ducked low and rolled forward, landing on her feet like a cat. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew that she couldn't stop. Back at the house by the beach, Maggie and Rick were still on the ground. 2 of the men held them, down while others searched the yard. You helped her? One of them said, looking at Maggie. Why? Maggie spat dirt from her mouth. Because it was the right thing to do. The man chuckled. You don't understand what you've done. Rick struggled against the grip of the soldier holding him. What are you going to do with her? The man didn't answer. He just looked at his watch. We'll find her, he said. And when we do, she won't be leaving again. Deep in the forest, Kayla finally stopped running. Her chest burned, her body ached. She leaned against a tree and tried to catch her breath. She pulled a small device from her belt. It was broken. Sparks flickered from its side. This was her last hope of contacting home. But now, it was useless. She looked up at the sky. Somewhere, out there, her people were waiting. Watching. Had they seen what happened? Did they know she was still alive? She hoped so. Meanwhile, back at Black Ridge Dynamics, Garrett Hale stood in a cold room filled with screens. Maps, satellite images, and live feeds played across the walls. One screen showed the chase in the forest. Another showed Maggie and Rick being taken into custody. He sipped coffee and watched it all. She's smart, he muttered. But not smart enough. A voice came over the intercom. Sir, we've got her location. Closing in now. Good, Hale said. Bring her in. Hours passed. By morning, Kayla was gone. The soldiers found her hiding place near a stream. They surrounded her. They gave her a choice. Come quietly or be taken by force. She chose neither. Instead, she did something none of them expected. She fought. Her hands moved fast. She kicked, twisted, and dodged. She broke one man's nose with her elbow. She disarmed another and used his own weapon to knock him out. But there were too many. Eventually, they subdued her with stun batons and chemical sprays. She fell to the ground, gasping for air. They cuffed her wrists and dragged her away. At Black Ridge headquarters, Kyla was placed in a small room. The walls were metal. The lights were bright. There was no window, no mirror, just a chair and a table. She sat alone for hours. Then the door opened. A man walked in. He wore a white coat and carried a clipboard. His name was Dr. Lewis Granger. He was a scientist. He smiled at her. "Hello," he said. "My name is Lewis. I want to talk to you." Kayla didn't respond. Lewis sat across from her. "I know you're scared, but this doesn't have to be bad." She stared at him. He continued, "You're not like us. You're different. Special. We want to learn about you." Kayla finally spoke. "Learn?" she asked. "Or hurt?" Lewis frowned. "No one wants to hurt you." Kayla looked at the bruises on her arms, the burn marks on her legs. "That's not what it feels like." Lewis sighed. "We need to understand your biology, how you heal so fast, how you move so quick. If we can study you, maybe we can help our own people." Kayla shook her head. "You don't care about helping. You only care about control." Lewis stood up. "We'll see." He left the room. Moments later, the door opened again. 2 more men entered. They weren't scientists. They were soldiers. They grabbed Kayla by the arms and pulled her up. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. No one answered. Over the next few days, Kayla was moved from room to room. Each time, new tests began. They took blood. They injected chemicals. They watched how her skin healed after cuts. They recorded her reactions to pain. Sometimes she screamed. Sometimes she cried. But she never begged. In another part of the building, Sienna Orris sat at a desk. She was not human. She was Varelian, but she looked like one. She had studied humans for years. She could speak their language. She could copy their expressions. She worked undercover, posing as a government consultant. Her real mission was to find the missing emissaries, Lauren, Syra, and Talik. And now she had found Kayla. She read reports about the experiments, about the tests, about the suffering. Her heart sank. She sent a message to her homeworld. "They are doing terrible things. We must act before it is too late." Meanwhile, back in Florida, Maggie and Rick were released. They returned home, shaken and scared. Maggie sat on the porch staring at the ocean. "They took her," she whispered. "Just like they took the others." Rick sat beside her. "Do you think she's still alive?" Maggie didn't answer. She wanted to believe she was. Far away, in space, the Varelian ship still orbited Earth. Its sensors picked up signals from below, faint, but growing stronger. Sena's message had been received. On Virelia, the council gathered once more. Veclin, the elder, looked at the data. "If we do nothing," he said, "more will suffer." Another member of the council nodded. "Then, we must send someone else," Veclin looked up. "Yes," he said, "we must warn the galaxy." In a large room filled with glowing screens, the leaders of many alien species sat around a wide table. They were not all the same. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some did not even look like what humans would call alive. This was the Unified Stellar Assembly, a group of spacefaring species who worked together to keep peace across the galaxy. Today, they were not at peace. They were afraid. Sena Orris stood near the center of the room. She looked human, but she was not. Her skin was slightly too smooth. Her eyes blinked slower than normal. She had spent years on Earth, watching, listening, and learning. Now, she had something important to say. She tapped a small device in her hand. A screen behind her lit up. Images appeared, blurry at first, then clear. One showed a man named Lauren Tavash. He was tied down, screaming. Next came Syra, then Talak, then Kayla Rin, bruised and crying. The aliens in the room watched in silence. "These are our people," Sena said, "and this is what the humans have done to them." An elder from the Zarnathi race spoke first. His voice was deep and slow. "Are you sure these images are real?" Sena nodded. "I was there. I saw it myself." Another alien, a Threxian queen, leaned forward. "We have heard stories before," she said, "but we ignored them. Why should we believe this now? Because now it was not just one story. It was many. Long ago, a Zarnathi scout ship had passed through human space. They meant no harm. They only wanted to observe. But when they landed on a moon near Mars, humans found them. Instead, of fear or violence, the humans laughed. They took the ship apart piece by piece. They gave it new paint. They called it the Star Cruiser Liberty and used it for parties and skydiving. When the Zarnathi tried to reclaim it, the humans didn't understand. They thought it was a joke. They invited the Zarnathi on board for drinks. Then, there was the case of the Threxian hive. They sent 3 envoys to meet with humans. Peaceful beings. Tall and thin, with soft voices and kind words. The humans welcomed them with open arms. Then, without warning, the envoys were taken to a city and placed on a reality TV show. They were dressed in strange clothes, asked silly questions, made to dance and smile. No one hurt them, but no one let them leave either. There were more stories. A Goran warship once tried to block a human colony ship from entering forbidden space. The humans responded by launching fireworks and playing loud music. When the Goran commander boarded their ship to demand answers, he was handed a guitar and told to jam out with the crew. He left confused and angry. Back in the meeting hall, the room was quiet. Sena looked at the faces around the table. "Humans do not act like other species," she said. "They do not follow rules. They do not respect power. They do not understand fear." Veclan, the Varelian elder, rubbed his chin. "They are chaotic," he said. "But are they dangerous?" Sena stepped closer. "Yes," she said. "Because they do not know how dangerous they are." Far away in the Black Ridge facility, Kayla Rin sat alone in her cell. Her body ached. Her mind felt foggy. They had given her something. A drug that slowed her thoughts and dulled her senses. She could barely move. Outside her door, footsteps echoed. Then the door opened. Dr. Lewis Granger walked in. He looked tired. He sat down across from her. "You're very strong," he said. "You've lasted longer than we thought." Kayla didn't speak. Lewis sighed. "I don't want to hurt you, but we need to learn. Your biology, it's unlike anything we've seen." Kayla looked at him. "Why?" she whispered. "What will you do with what you learn?" He hesitated. "We can make people better," he said. "Cure diseases, stop aging, maybe even bring people back from the dead." Kayla shook her head. "You think you can control us," she said, "but you cannot." Lewis frowned. "Control who?" Kayla stared into his eyes. "All of us." Later that night, a message was sent from Sena to her homeworld. It read, "The humans are not like us. They do not see danger the way we do. They do not fear death. They do not care about rules. They are not conquerors. They are not diplomats. They are something else. Something wild. Warn the others. If they come here, they must be ready." On Virelia, the council gathered again. Veclan stood and looked at the others. "We must decide," he said. "Do we warn the galaxy? Or do we try to talk to them again?" Many voices rose at once. Some said yes. Some said no. Finally, one voice cut through the noise. It was Syra's brother. His name was Ren Tavash. He stood and pointed at the screen where Kayla's face still glowed. "My sister is gone," he said. "Lauren is gone. Talak may never return. If we wait, more will suffer. We must act." Silence followed. Then Veclan spoke. "Then we vote." The lights dimmed. Hands were raised. After a long pause, Vecklin nodded. The motion passes. Humans are to be quarantined. No contact unless absolutely necessary. Far away, on Earth, life went on. People argued over politics, watched sports, posted pictures online. No one knew that. Far above them, a wall was being built, not of stone or steel, but of light and energy, a barrier around their world, a cage meant to keep them in and the rest of the galaxy safe. The stars were still there, watching, but now something had changed. A quiet wall of energy had been built around the solar system. It was invisible to human eyes, undetectable by normal sensors. It did not stop light or sound, but it stopped something else. It stopped humans from leaving, not all at once, not with explosions or warships, just a gentle push, a soft redirection. Any human ship that tried to go past a certain point simply turned back, or vanished, or never knew they had gone anywhere at all. In a small town in Texas, a man named Evan Carter sat in his garage, surrounded by wires, old, computer parts and broken engines. He was 32 years old. He had short hair, tired eyes, and calloused hands. Once, he had been a pilot for the United Nations Space Command. Now he fixed satellites for private companies. He loved space. Always had. Even when he was a kid, he used to lie on the roof and stare up at the sky, wondering what was out there. Now he wasn't sure anymore, because something didn't feel right. Weeks ago, Evan had taken a deep space survey mission, routine work, map new asteroid belts, check for debris. Nothing fancy. He had flown far beyond Mars, where the sun felt weaker and the silence deeper. Everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. His instruments started acting strange. His navigation system said he was going straight, but his view outside showed he was turning. His fuel levels dropped without reason. His comms picked up static that sounded like voices. Then, suddenly, everything reset, like nothing had happened. He returned to base confused and shaken. He reported what he saw. No one believed him. Glitch, they said. Sensor error, they told him. You need rest. Evan didn't argue. He just nodded and walked away. But he didn't forget. Back in the galaxy, the quarantine was complete. From orbit, the barrier looked like a shimmering dome. It pulsed gently, responding to any attempt to pass through. Sena Oris watched from a hidden satellite above Earth. She sent a final message to Virelia. Quarantine is in place. No human ships have passed through. They do not know yet, but they will soon. Vecklin read the message and closed his eyes. This was not meant to be cruel. It was meant to protect. Humans were not evil. They were dangerous, not because they wanted to hurt, but because they didn't understand how much damage they could do. Evan kept digging. He spent nights in his garage looking at old flight logs, comparing data from other pilots who had gone deep into space. He found patterns, small ships vanishing, big ships returning with wrong coordinates. Some pilots remembered going somewhere but couldn't remember what they saw. One even went mad. He started talking about walls in space, voices calling his name, things pulling his ship back. Evan printed everything. He took it to NASA. They laughed. He took it to the military. They threatened him. He took it to the press. They called him paranoid. Finally, he posted it online. No one cared. Space was boring to most people. Unless it exploded miles away in a dusty apartment in California, a woman named Nina Reyes read Evan's post. She was 28, smart, fast with computers. She had worked for the government once but quit after seeing too many secrets. She read Evan's files again and again. Then she smiled. This isn't random, she whispered. This is control. She began her own search. She hacked into old satellite data, pulled up old flight paths, tracked lost ships. What she found scared her. Something was keeping humans inside the solar system, and no one had noticed. Yet meanwhile, in Washington, a retired astronaut named Dr. Carl Whitmore sat in his office. He was 64, gray hair, tired eyes, Once he had walked on the moon. Now he taught kids about gravity and orbits. A young reporter came to see him. "Dr. Whitmore," she asked, "do you believe the stories about strange things happening in space?" He looked at her. "Strange?" he asked. "Some say ships are disappearing. Others say they're being blocked." Carl leaned back in his chair. He had seen things during his time in space. Things he never talked about. Once, while orbiting Jupiter, his ship had frozen mid-flight. Not the engine, not the power, the whole thing, like time had paused. He had blinked. When he opened his eyes, he was back near Mars. No memory of the trip. He had brushed it off then. But now? He stood up. "I think we should look closer," he said. That night, Evan got a message. It was from someone named Nina Reyes. Her message read, "I think I know what's happening. Meet me in Phoenix. Bring your data." Evan stared at the screen. Then he packed his bag. Far away, in the cold void of space, Sena watched from her hidden station. She saw Evan leave his house. She saw Nina log into secure networks. She saw Carl Whitmore make a call. "They are starting to notice," she said to herself. Below her, the barrier pulsed. Evan Carter met Nina Reyes at a small diner on the edge of Phoenix. It was late and the place was almost empty. Neon lights flickered above the counter, casting soft shadows across the worn wooden tables. Nina sat in a booth with her laptop open, fingers flying over the keys. She wore a black hoodie and had dark circles under her eyes from too many nights spent online. Evan slid into the seat across from her. "You're real," he said. "So are you," she replied without looking up. She turned the laptop toward him. The screen showed maps, flight paths, and strange gaps in space where ships had vanished or returned with impossible data. "This isn't normal," she said. "Someone is hiding something." Evan nodded. "I've seen it myself. My ship turned, back when I didn't tell it to. Fuel dropped for no reason. Comms picked up voices that weren't ours." Nina leaned closer. "What if someone doesn't want us to leave?" Evan frowned. "Leave where?" "Space," she said. "The solar system. What if we're being kept in?" Evan stared at her. The idea sounded crazy, but after everything he had seen, he couldn't rule it out. "How do we prove it?" he asked. Nina smiled. "We find someone who tried to break through." They didn't have to look far. Dr. Carl Whitmore had spent his life flying through space. Now he was retired, but he still knew people, old contacts, forgotten files, hidden records. He agreed to meet them in Las Vegas. Neutral ground, far from government eyes. In a quiet hotel room, he laid out what he knew. "There have been reports," he said. "Not just yours. Others have noticed things. Ships turning, back, pilots waking up in different places, some never came back." He opened a folder filled with printed logs. This one, he pointed at a page. A crew went beyond Pluto. They sent a message saying they were entering uncharted space. Then, nothing. Their ship returned 3 days later. Engines cold. No one on board. Nina looked at Evan. "We need to get out there again," she said. "And this time we don't come back until we know why." They found an old prototype, ship buried in a forgotten military base in New Mexico. It was called the Voyager 7, built years ago for experimental warp travel. It had never been tested properly. The project was canceled after a few failed attempts, but it was still there. Dusty, broken, waiting. With help from a few old engineers and a lot of stolen parts, they got it running. Nina rewrote the navigation software. Evan trained every day in the simulator. Carl made sure the systems wouldn't blow up mid-flight. After weeks of work, they were ready. They launched at night, slipping past radar with fake signals and borrowed codes. No one saw them go. Far above Earth, Sena Oris watched from her hidden station. Her sensors picked up the launch. "Too soon," she whispered. She sent a warning to Virelia. "They are moving faster than expected. They will reach the barrier soon. If they pass through, the quarantine fails." Fecklin read the message and closed his eyes. "Then we must prepare," he said. The Voyager 7 flew deeper into space, past Mars, past Jupiter. Past Saturn, the stars stretched behind them like fading memories. Evan checked the instruments. "Everything looks good," he said. Nina wasn't so sure. "We should have hit the outer limit by now." Carl looked out the window. "Unless we already passed it." Suddenly the ship shook. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. "What the hell was that?" Evan shouted. Nina scanned the sensors. "Something just pushed us back." "Pushed?" Carl asked. "Like a wall," she said. They were still moving forward, but the stars outside were wrong. "We're not where we were," Nina said. "We're near Uranus." Evan stared at the map. "That's not possible. We only flew for 10 minutes. They tried again. And again. Each time they flew straight ahead. Each time they woke up somewhere else. Sometimes closer. Sometimes farther. Never where they were going." Finally, Evan had enough. "We're not just hitting a wall," he said. "We're being moved." Nina ran a deep scan. She pulled up layers of invisible energy fields, gravitational distortions, and false readings. "Someone is controlling this," she said. "Someone doesn't want us to leave." Carl stood up. Then "Stop trying to sneak through," he said. He walked to the control panel. "We punch our way out." They modified the warp drive. Instead of jumping slowly, they would overload it, blast through anything in their path. Nina linked the power core directly to the thrusters. "This might destroy the ship," she warned. "Or it might save us," Evan said. They counted down. 3, 2, 1. The engine roared. Light filled the cabin. And then, silence. Back in space, Sana watched the data stream. "They broke through," one of her assistants said. Veklin's voice came through the comms. "Warn the others. Humans have left the system. The quarantine has failed." Evan Carter met Nina Reyes at a small diner on the edge of Phoenix. It was late and the place was almost empty. Neon lights flickered above the counter, casting soft shadows across the worn wooden tables. Nina sat in a booth with her laptop open, fingers flying over the keys. She wore a black hoodie and had dark circles under her eyes from too many nights spent online. Evan slid into the seat across from her. "You're real," he said. "So are you," she replied without looking up. She turned the laptop toward him. The screen showed maps, flight paths, and strange gaps in space where ships had vanished or returned with impossible data. "This isn't normal," she said. "Someone is hiding something." Evan nodded. "I've seen it myself. My ship turned, back when I didn't tell it to. Fuel dropped for no reason. Comms picked up voices that weren't ours." Nina leaned closer. "What if someone doesn't want us to leave?" Evan frowned. "Leave where?" "Space," she said. "The solar system. What if we're being kept in?" Evan stared at her. The idea sounded crazy, but after everything he had seen, he couldn't rule it out. "How do we prove it?" he asked. Nina smiled. "We find someone who tried to break through. They didn't have to look far. Dr. Carl Whitmore had spent his life flying through space. Now, he was retired, but he still knew people, old contacts, forgotten files, hidden records. He agreed to meet them in Las Vegas, neutral ground, far from government eyes. In a quiet hotel room, he laid out what he knew. "There have been reports," he said. "Not just yours. Others have noticed things. Ships turning back. Pilots waking up in different places. Some never came back." He opened a folder filled with printed logs. "This one," he pointed at a page. "A crew went beyond Pluto. They sent a message saying they were entering uncharted space. Then, nothing. Their ship returned 3 days later. Engines cold. No one on board." Nina looked at Evan. "We need to get out there again," she said. "And this time we don't come back until we know why." They found an old prototype, ship buried in a forgotten military base in New Mexico. It was called the Voyager 7 built years ago for experimental warp travel. It had never been tested properly. The project was canceled after a few failed attempts, but it was still there. Dusty, broken, waiting, with help from a few old engineers and a lot of stolen parts. They got it running. Nina rewrote the navigation software. Evan trained every day in the simulator. Carl made sure the systems wouldn't blow up mid-flight. After weeks of work, they were ready. They launched at night, slipping past radar with fake signals and borrowed codes. No one saw them go. Far above Earth, Sena Oris watched from her hidden station. Her sensors picked up the launch. Too soon, she whispered. She sent a warning to Virelia. They are moving faster than expected. They will reach the barrier soon. If they pass through, the quarantine fails. Fecklin read the message and closed his eyes. Then we must prepare, he said. The Voyager 7 flew deeper into space. Past Mars, past Jupiter, past Saturn. The stars stretched behind them like fading memories. Evan checked the instruments. Everything looks good, he said. Nina wasn't so sure. We should have hit the outer limit by now. Carl looked out the window. Unless we already passed it. Suddenly, the ship shook. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. What the hell was that? Evan shouted. Nina scanned the sensors. Something just pushed us back. Pushed? Carl asked. Like a wall, she said. They were still moving forward, but the stars outside were wrong. We're not where we were, Nina said. We're near Uranus. Evan stared at the map. That's not possible. We only flew for 10 minutes. They tried again. And again. Each time they flew straight ahead. Each time they woke up somewhere else. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther. Never where they were going. Finally, Evan had enough. We're not just hitting a wall, he said. We're being moved. Nina ran a deep scan. She pulled up layers of invisible energy fields, gravitational distortions, and false readings. Someone is controlling this, she said. Someone doesn't want us to leave. Carl stood up. Then we stop trying to sneak through, he said. He walked to the control panel. We punch our way out. They modified the warp drive. Instead of jumping slowly, they would overload it. Blast through anything in their path. Nina linked the power core directly to the thrusters. This might destroy the ship, she warned. Or it might save us, Evan said. They counted down. 3, 2, 1. The engine roared. Light filled the cabin. And then, silence. Back in space, Sena watched the data stream. The Voyager 7 burst through the invisible wall like a bullet breaking glass. Light exploded around the ship. Alarms blared. Systems flickered. For a moment, no one could see anything. Then, just like that, it was quiet. Evan Carter blinked, staring out the window. We're outside, he whispered. Nina Reyes checked the sensors. No interference. No pullback. We're free. Carl Whitmore leaned back in his seat with a tired smile. Well, I guess we made history. They had done what no human had done in decades. They left the solar system. And this time, someone noticed. Far away, in the cold dark of space, an alien patrol ship floated silently between two stars. It was part of the Goran Dominion, our warlike empire known for crushing rebellions and taking what they wanted. On board, Commander Korak stood on the bridge, arms crossed, watching the screens. His second-in-command, Talvos, pointed at a signal blinking fast. Something passed through. The void, he said. Fast, strong. Korak narrowed his eyes. Run scans. Find out what it was. Talvos tapped controls. Data rolled in. The object matched no known profiles. Unknown origin, Talvos said. But it came from Earth. Korak's face darkened. Humans, he muttered. They were supposed to be contained. He turned to Talvos. Find it, he ordered. Bring it to me. Back on the Voyager 7, Evan stared at the stars. Nothing looked different, but everything felt wrong. Shouldn't there be more out here? He asked. Ships? Planets? Something? Nina frowned. If humans aren't allowed out, maybe no one else comes near us. Carl looked up from his notes. Or maybe we just don't know where we are. Evan pointed at the map. We should have passed a few colonies by now. Nina shook her head. There's nothing, just empty space. Then the alarm went off. Contact, Nina shouted. A large ship appeared on radar. Fast. Hostile. Lights flashed on the Voyager 7. His control panel. They're locking weapons, she said. Evan grabbed the controls. We need to move. We can't outrun them, Carl said. Not in this junkyard. Nina typed fast. I might be able to hide us. Before she could finish, the enemy ship fired. A bright beam of energy shot past the Voyager 7, missing. By seconds, they want us alive, Carl said. For now. Evan gritted his teeth. Not gonna happen. He pushed the throttle forward hard. The ship groaned, engines screaming. They dove into a field of floating debris, parts of old ships, broken satellites and pieces of something ancient. This is insane, Nina said. Yeah, Evan replied, but it's all we've got. On the Goran ship, Korak watched the chase. Do not let them escape, he growled. Talvos nodded. We'll board them. Take what we need. Korak smiled. Good. He didn't care about the humans. He only cared about what they knew, because if they had broken through the quarantine, then something had changed, and change meant danger. Inside the Voyager 7, Evan dodged another blast. We can't keep this up forever, he said. Nina looked at the power levels. We've got maybe 10 minutes before the core blows. Carl stood up. Then we make sure they remember us. He walked to the back of the ship. Evan followed. What are you doing? Carl opened a small storage locker. Inside was a prototype. Warp core, unstable, dangerous, never tested. This thing goes boom, Carl said. It won't just damage them. Nina's eyes widened. You're saying it could destroy their whole ship? Carl nodded. Maybe even ourselves, too. Evan looked at him. You really want to go out like this? He asked. Carl smiled. Better to go out fighting than disappear, quietly. Meanwhile, on the Goran ship, preparations were underway. Boarding pods were loaded. Soldiers suited up. Weapons powered on. Prepare to dock, Korak ordered. Talvos looked confused. Shouldn't we scan them first? Korak laughed. They're humans. What can they do? Seconds later, the Voyager 7 sent out a final signal. If anyone ever finds this, Evan said, voice steady. Know that we tried. Then with a push of a button, the warp core overloaded. Light filled the cabin. Then silence. When the light faded, the Voyager 7 was gone. So was half of the Goran patrol ship. Smoke and fire drifted through space. Korak was dead. Talvos barely. Survived, thrown across the bridge when the explosion hit. He pulled himself up, shaking. Send a message, he ordered, blood running down his face. To all stations. He looked at the screen where the human ship had vanished. Humans are no longer contained. Far away, Sena Oris received the report. She read the words slowly. Then she closed her eyes. It has begun. On Virelia, the council gathered once again. Veklan listened as messages came in from across the galaxy. A human ship had escaped. A Goran warship had been destroyed. And worse, the humans had not run. They had fought. And won. Sena sent one. Last warning, they broke through, one of her assistants said. Veklan's voice came through the comms. Warn the others. Humans have left the system. The quarantine has failed. After the explosion, space was quiet again. But the galaxy had changed forever. Word spread fast, across planets, colonies, and starbases. From one end of known space to the other, a human ship had broken through the quarantine, and it didn't just disappear. It fought and it won, on Virelia. The council met in emergency session. Veklan sat at the head of the table. His face was tired, but his voice was strong. We warned them, he said. We told the assembly that humans were dangerous. Syra's brother, Ren Tavash, stood up. Dangerous? He asked. Or just misunderstood? Veklan looked at him. They do not fear us, he said. They do not follow rules. They do not act like any species we have ever seen. He turned to the others. Humans are not conquerors. They are not diplomats. They are something else. Silence filled the room. Then Sena Oris spoke. They are predators, she said softly. Not because they kill, but because they change everything. Far away on Earth, life went on. People still fought over politics, watched sports, posted pictures online. No one knew what had happened in deep space. But soon, they would, because Evan Carter, Nina Reyes, and Dr. Carl Whitmore had left a message behind, and someone out there was going to find it. In the years that followed, more ships left Earth. Some were military, some were private, some were made by groups no one had heard of. They flew past Mars, past Jupiter, past the invisible wall that once kept them in, and this time, nothing stopped them. The first contact came with the Zarnathi, a peaceful species that had once tried to study humans from afar. Now they sent a small ship to meet the new explorers. They landed on a moon near Uranus. They brought gifts, glowing stones, soft fabrics, and music that sounded like wind. The humans greeted them with loud voices, laughter, and strange food. One of them offered a Zarnathi a sandwich. He ate it, then he fell asleep for 12 hours. The humans thought it was hilarious. Next came the Threxians. They were tall and thin, with soft voices and calm ways. They tried to talk about peace, trade, and mutual understanding. The humans listened. Then they asked if the Threxians could help build a space farm. Within weeks, a floating greenhouse was growing tomatoes, corn, and something called space peppers that made everyone cry. The Threxians did not understand why the humans found this funny, but they stayed anyway. Not all meetings went well. When the Goran, Dominion, returned, they came with warships. They wanted revenge for the patrol ship that had been destroyed. They sent a message. You broke the law. You must be punished, the humans replied with a video. It showed a group of people playing loud music, dancing, and launching fireworks into space. The caption read, "If you want to fight, bring your best. We've got snacks." The Goran commander stared at the screen. He had never seen anything like it. These beings were not afraid. They were not warriors. They were not diplomats. They were unpredictable. And that scared him more than anything. Back in the unified stellar assembly, panic grew. Species that had lived in peace for centuries began to argue. Should we attack them? Asked the Zalari. Should we hide? Asked the Yuvani. Should we learn from them? Asked the Varelians. Sena stood and raised her voice. None of those things, she said. We must understand them. She looked at the others. Humans are not like us. They do not see danger the way we do. They do not care about power. They do not follow orders. She paused. They survive. They adapt. They change. Veclin nodded. They are not the strongest, he said, but they are the most alive. Back on Earth, news of the return to space began to leak. Governments argued over who should control it. Companies raced to build better ships. Kids dreamed of flying among the stars. And somewhere in a dusty garage in Texas, a man named Evan Carter watched the sky. He smiled. We're back, he whispered. Years passed. Humanity spread further. They built bases on moons. They traded with aliens. They made friends. They made enemies. Sometimes, they made mistakes, but they never stopped moving, never stopped trying, never stopped being themselves. In the end, the galaxy learned one simple truth. Humans were not feared because they were powerful. They were feared because they were different. They did not follow rules. They did not respect limits. They did not ask permission. They saw a problem and solved it. They saw a wall and broke through it. They saw the stars and said, "We're coming." And when they arrived, things changed. Forever. And so the galaxy whispered their name with both awe and fear, not because they ruled with strength, not because they carried weapons, but because they were wild, free, unpredictable, and unstoppable. Humans, the galaxy's apex predators.